Thanks very much, Sidders. Well, good luck keeping up with Tingana. Oh, there we go. We've got some movement. Oh, look at the size of those ears. Isn't that incredible? An insect must have moved. And they must have gone, oh, here we go. Here come the pups. Oh, I thought those were the pups. Just goes to show how small they are, doesn't it? That now suddenly the pups are coming out. Now we've got some movement. It's very cool. On average, they can have between sort of 3 and 4 pups at a time. Certainly, Emma, if you'd like to invite some more on board, you're most welcome to. A little bit of a yawn. Morning. Good afternoon, good evening, welcome to the Mara Triangle in Kenya. We are with a small little family of bat-eared foxes that are just starting to yawn as the sun is setting in the distance. Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Falconbridge. I'm joined on camera by Big James. Please feel free to drop any questions and comments down below. But let's go back to these bat-eared fox, my bad. They are very cute. We came across this den this morning. And, well, we just came across it now. The 2 adults were lying outside in a very curled up position, and they just moved, and as they did, the youngsters came bounding out. A little bit of yawn happening. Generally, you find 2 pups in a den due to the fact that they can have anywhere from 3 to 5, but the birth weights can be quite incredibly different. And sometimes there's actually some infanticide that happens inside of the den. Strawhead, the coolest creature ever, indeed. Look at those ears. It's time for a bit of grooming. And they are probably one of the smallest canids that you'll come across, with their enormous ears, and the better for hearing you with. Tiffany, they are very cute and they are very relaxed. They're right next to the road here, so probably many cars drive past and don't even know that they're there. And in saying that, on our way here we saw 4 or 5 cars in front of us that hadn't even spotted them lying in the long grass, as it's Mum and Dad's turn to start grooming the little youngsters. No doubt before that Mum and Dad go on a little bit of a foraging. There we go. Come on, if I move in closer, maybe you'll give me a scratch, Mum. And go on a foraging foray, and they feed primarily on insects, termites at night, beetles, shongololos or millipedes if you were, in the early parts of the rainy season, and they will feed on a small portion of rodents as well. Inga, this is the second time I've seen bat-eared foxes in the Mara, and this morning was the first time. We stumbled across this den site. Big James on the back thought we'd spotted some jackal, and we reversed back, and indeed it was not jackal, but it was these guys. And we know where the den site is, so I'm definitely going to be spending some time over the next few weeks trying to get some more views of them as these little youngsters start growing, because, you know, they generally breed in about October, November time, and it takes about 9 days for these youngsters to open their eyes, and after 6 months they are actually fully grown with regards to adult weight, but the females will only actually come into estrus at about 18 months. So very small canid, but reproducing quite quickly and growing up quite quickly. Oh, a little bit of a snuggle session happening now. It was all a little bit of a prelude to them getting up, but actually they're still a little bit sleepy. Oh, that looks very cute. A little Christmas bed there. How cute and comfortable does that look? A beautiful fur. If you don't understand where the name bat-eared fox comes from, well, they clearly look like a fox with the ears of a bat. And that is because they will listen to the ground, subterranean movement of rodents and beetles, insects, a lot of termites underneath the ground. Penny, I don't think they eat too much fruit. It's possible that they do. I'll have to have a look at that. But they are primarily an insect eater, feeding on a huge portion of termites. Beetles, they'll actually dig the larvae out from underneath the ground. Oh, and we've got a zebra and some Thompson's gazelle all around in the background. Plethora of game out here in the marsh, but no doubt, as most sort of small jackal-like fox animals will feed on certain fruits from time to time, I'm pretty sure they probably would have a portion of that in their diet, but being mainly an insectivore with a small portion of rodents and even the odd skink or lizard if they come across it. Well, it seems like these little foxes have gone back to sleep. We will be staying with them for the rest of, well, for a little bit longer in the show anyway. If you'd like to continue watching, we are still live for another hour or so. Please jump on board, Google Safari Live. We'd like to see you there. But thank you for your questions and comments, and have a good night. Welcome back, everybody. How cute is that? A little ball of fluff. The family all nice and congested together. Maybe not enough space in the hole for all four to be together, but definitely still some sleepy little foxes there. Quite camouflaged, in fact. I didn't see them this morning, but then I think I'd spotted the jackal in the distance. But no doubt these youngsters would disappear quickly into that hole if the Duke of Djuma was to be around. I wonder what Sydney's thoughts are on the matter. How many of you are saying, oh, I want one of those? So you notice we've gone into the IR spectrum, infrared spectrum. The sun is set. We're watching it with David and it's becoming dark. And, well, hopefully these youngsters will start playing shortly, and the adults themselves maybe get up and do something. But the Afrikaans name in South Africa for the bat-eared fox is called the draai jakkals, which basically means the turning jackal. Although they're not a jackal, they could have been grouped into the same sort of family. Well, they are really. But the reason they call the draai jakkals the turning jackal is their ability to turn on a pivot. Kimberly, they're not a jackal. They are a fox, a bat-eared fox. They are part of the carnivore family, so they do fall into the same order, the same canid family, but they're not the same genus. No, so they're not that closely related. They've moved down more of the sort of insect sort of spectrum, not a scavenging sort of spectrum. And yeah, there are a lot of similarities, but they are not the same species or in the same sort of genus area, if that makes any sense. But they are at risk of being attacked by a jackal, but they are very quick. They can move very quickly, and they are able to turn completely at 90 degrees at full speed by pivoting on one foot, and also by using their tail as a bit of a rudder. And at the same time, the tail is also able to deflect any predator that might be coming in. They are at risk of martial eagles as well, but by moving and dodging left and right and zigzagging towards a hole, it's not easy for a large predator in the sky to catch them. And even a predator on the ground is not able to keep up the same sort of speed and left and right turning until they obviously make their way back into their burrow. Hello, Lindsay. Well, there's not many foxes in South Africa. In Southern Africa, we've got the Cape fox, and then we've got the bat-eared fox. And you want to know about the niche and how is it they specialize? All of these animals, to be able to fit in to sort of the carnivore sort of hierarchy, need to be able to specialize in certain things. And most certainly, the bat-eared fox has moved more into sort of the realm of the aardwolf and the sort of the zorilla, which is the striped polecat. And they are animals that feed almost exclusively on insects. They move around feeding on insects. They are still in the carnivore family. They still have the teeth to bite. They still have the ability to sort of be aggressive in that sort of way. But to be able to not outcompete or to compete too closely with an animal very similar in size and behavior, you have to switch diet. So the niche with regards to bat-eared fox and jackal, very similar with regards to habitat area, very similar with regards to den sites, but the difference would be in feeding. Kinquad, the noises that they make are actually quite interesting, and they're regarded as the quietest of all of the canids. And there's only a few calls that they really do, and I'm going to have to just go through a little bit because they talk about it in a lot of detail in the book. But they say there's only two really loud calls that they use, and they're mainly voiced in emergencies. There's some soft calls that they do just between sort of the mum and the youngsters, sort of like soft mewing bird-like sounds, sort of close close to around the den, which are almost inaudible. Only with sort of microphones near to the den can you actually hear that. There's also some chirping calls, which are basically between the siblings in and around the den when they get a little bit sort of whiny looking for mum. There's also kind of a woof, sort of hiss, growl type of call that they'll also do, which is sort of like a soft warning call to anything that sort of is coming towards the den, and the youngsters will move. But none of these are really heard by anybody. It's only through studies where people have put microphones nearby that you will hear those. They're not the kind of sounds to kind of warn you off. But then also, when it comes to a predator coming close, I've been close to Bat-eared fox den many years ago in Botswana, and I heard it growl, and almost it terrified me, in fact, because it charged and growled at me from underneath a bush with back of the hair raised, tail up in the air, all bushy. And I was frightened for a moment, and well, it did exactly what it's supposed to do. It caused us to turn around and move away, and then we realized it was actually a bat-eared fox that it was doing. It's a typical sort of growl, snarl that just makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and that is obviously sort of to protect their youngsters. Anything that comes near their den site, be it jackal, even larger predators, maybe even a leopard, could fall victim to that kind of behavior. And then if they get bitten, there's a type of scream, distress call that happens when bat-eared foxes fight each other. There's a very sort of high scream, distress call, and then a high-pitched bark, which is a high-pitched bark called for when all the pups need to come back to the den if they've been misbehaving. But anyway, we're going to stay here with these little youngsters. Oh, there we go. She's up. And while we do so, let's go all... Oh, hang on. What's going on? Sorry, Emma. There's a little bit of action going on. If you don't mind, we'll just give it another moment. You can see the body shape now. I think there was some jackal coming nearby. I lost visual of what was going on. There were jackal nearby not so long ago. And you can see that their body posturing, they look like a small dog, don't they? Now, as soon as something happens that they need to warn the pups about, there'll be a little call. The pups will go alarming straight into the den site, and they will stay. There is a jackal just off to the right here. A little bit to the right there, James. There's a... yes, most certainly. A jackal, I suppose, if they were able to get towards or anywhere near these pups. Oh, there's a third one. How exciting. It looks a bit bigger, actually. That looks like a third adult. That's very interesting. That is a third adult. It's very likely that bat-eared foxes have got a similar sort of behavior to that of jackals, where you might get a sibling or a youngster that stays on another season to assist in the rearing of the youngsters, maybe even to stay around and to guard the den. And this looks like what's happening. But yes, all carnivores, unfortunately, will kill each other's cubs and pups if they get the opportunity. And that is why they are so defensive around the den site and will charge and scare anybody off. We've got the two adults in front of the car now. They are about to walk into the road, just in front of us. Sorry about my body there. Here they are. Such beautiful little animals. They're quite delicate, aren't they? You see how sort of small their tail is and their body, but as soon as they get sort of a little bit alert or aggressive, sorry about my head, a little bit alert or aggressive, well, everything puffs up and they double in size. That, together with a snarling growl, well, that will obviously make you a little bit frightened. I've seen their tracks before down in parts of the Kruger National Park. Never seen one down there. Seen the track. They're a little bit similar to a jackal, but squashed like a jackal track that's kind of been squashed together. There's the third adult. They're obviously going off on a foraging spree. The youngsters are all down back in the hole, and these three are going to go off looking for some termites right on time. If you're a nocturnal animal, this is the time of day you go out in search of food, and well, they're going out as a trio. Perfectly done. Trotting along as they go. There we go. Hopefully we'll see them doing a little bit of a sprint. That's a hyena. It's a jackal. Let's see what they do to the jackal. Is there going to be any interaction between them? And probably a little bit of standoff. The jackal's like, no, I know these guys, they bite. They snarl and growl. No, not too bothered. Maybe they know that they're neighbours. The jackal are right next door and they tolerate each other for the most part. Fantastic. Such special scenes we're having up here. A bit itchy. Okay, well, I'm sure these guys are going to be off to have some food, but it seems like the Duke is still with Sydney. Let's go back down to him. It's a baby central right now. There's a baby jackal with its mum. Let's come back to right next to the den site here. There's a baby zebra in the background, and the bat-eared foxes moved back to the den. There's the youngsters in the foreground, and all three of the adults have moved back. They followed that jackal back to the scene to see exactly what's going on with the jackal. But it seems that these are sort of cooperative neighbors that are quite enjoying being right next door to each other. You see, there's more interest there than anything else. You can actually see the jackal's also got quite big ears, but not the same sort of proportion that these bat-eared foxes have. There, can you see how that bat-eared fox baby there has got its tail raised, started showing a little bit of sort of agnostic behavior. Mrs. Grumpy indeed is a nocturnal nursery right here. But you saw the little youngster had its tail up. It was sort of starting to show a little bit of aggressive behavior, learning how it's supposed to look and behave when being approached. And that's what bat-eared foxes do. If they're being aggressive towards something, they pick up their back, they lower their head, put their ears down to the side, and the tail stands up bushy behind them, making them look really, really big with that growling sound coming through them. If you've ever had a very small dog growling and being aggressive, showing his teeth, you still are terrified of it because you know it has the potential to give you a proper bite. And so that's exactly what that behavior is all about. It's all about intimidation. And well, it seems like one of the adults wants to stay with the youngsters for now, while the jackals are prowling around and the zebras are grazing in the background. It's a marvelous evening we're having. There was some hyena calling not so long ago to our left-hand side, so imagine they came onto the scene. It would be quite a nice evening. Deja vu, I don't actually know what the rarest animal is in the Mara. This is the first time today that I'm seeing bat-eared foxes. Maybe David Gitu would know. He's spent a lot more time up here. This is his home. A lot more time up here than I have, so he might be the best person to ask. But a black rhino are considered rare and endangered. The southern ground hornbill across the continent are rare and endangered. And I suppose these bat-eared foxes are not rare or not endangered, but definitely not seen very often. They tend to not be in very high number in areas of high predator density. Oops, there they go. There we go. They're all out now. Something was moving in front of us here, James. I can't really see with my naked eyes, but they're going towards it. Have a look. See what posturing they're doing. Sorry about my car there. They're walking directly towards whatever I could kind of see. Oh, I could see zebra. That's what I could see. That is the direction that they are heading in. There we go. Got myself a bug. Munch, munch. That's where we're all going to be going in the near future, is insects for food. It's already happening. You can already buy insect bars and insect burgers certain places in the world. Katie, these babies are unbelievably cute. And those are the adults. And they're unbelievably cute as well. They're very delicate little legs. You can see they trot just like a jackal does. They walk a little bit more than jackals do. Jackals don't have the ability to walk. They're constantly trotting. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but in the distance the hyenas are calling. Cuddle, they are very fast. They are very, very quick. I'd love to see them running around. You can see the two youngsters with their babysitter. Going to be much more comfortable with one hanging around the den, and that's probably what happens from time to time. It's very well recorded in jackal, so why not in bat-eared fox? They're far less studied than jackal because they don't occur in as many places as the black-backed jackal. The black-backed jackal occurring in enormous amounts of the continent, whereas these are sort of isolated to the Kalahari, which is around Botswana and northern South Africa, and up here in the Mara, Serengeti. Well, it has been a fantastic evening. Thank you for joining us. The Batty-Head Foxes have stolen the show. But thanks to David for finding some lions. Also Sydney for finding the Duke of Djuma. What a way to end the show with such awesome little scenes up here with these little youngsters. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. We'd like to see you again every day. We are going to be live again tomorrow morning, the normal time. I'll be out with David and Sydney again. We hope to see you then. Thank you for your questions and comments. We'll see you again soon. Have a beautiful, beautiful night, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.